Hello everyone and welcome to episode 2 of Java Kickstart, which is a video lesson video series in which I cover the basics of Java, and this entire series is based on the textbook Absolute Java by Walter Savitch. And in today's episode we're going to cover data types, so the different ways in which you can store information in the computer's memory and the ways that you can manipulate it, and also ways that you can change the type of the data type that you're using in order to store information and print it if needed. So just to recap, last episode we covered the very basics of Java, which includes Java file names, as well as the main method, as well as the function system.out.println, as well as .print, and how you can print anything within that. But what we're really printing here is something called a string. So the first thing I'm going to do is, again, we're going to go to the src, and then we're going to hit new and Java class, and then this time I'm going to call it data types, and then we're going to have data types.java. And so if we go back to the main method and then we do system.out.println, and then we print, for example, hello. So what the computer is printing is something called a string. So I'm going to write that down up here. So string, and then you want to give it a name. Okay, so I'm going to say name1, and then you can give that like if you just put a semicolon, what that really means is it's just going to be initialized to null, which means it has absolutely no value in it or anything like that. So for example, if I were to print the value of name1, it's going to give me an error because it's it's a static reference as well, and it's also declared outside of main. So if we put that back in here, there we go. Oops, there we go. The error, we're gonna have a different error now. Is that it's null, so it's not initialized. Technically, if I run it, it shouldn't be too much of an issue. But we are gonna get the Java the null pointer exception. So we should set that to a value, and the only way to do that is to set put the two put the apostrophes on there. So I'm gonna write hello, and then boom, we have hello. So that's one of the data types. But say for example I just want one character, that goes to the character data type, which is just car pretty much, and then you just want to put character equals but instead of the apostrophe, you're just going to want and instead of the apostrophe, you're just going to put the single dash, and then you're going to put your letter. And then if I put character, we're going to get C. Oops, sorry, there's no, there we go. We're going to get the C printed. So these are mainly for your texts, any character, string, as you can see. So these are the ones that are going to store texts. But say for example I just want to store a number. Well, for one thing, you could just store it right here. So I can put 2, and we need to change that. So if I do that again, you're still going to get 2 because you could store anything as that. But say for example I want to do an addition. So I'm going to have name1 plus name1. Well, that's actually going to do a different thing, so we're not going to get there yet. But what's going to happen is if I want to add this to another string, all it's going to do is it's just going to do 2C, for example. So if I do string long name equals name1 plus character, what that's going to give me is 2C. But I don't want that. I want to add something. I want to actually do a mathematical operation. And so that's where the first of the integer type data types come in, which the first one, the smallest one, includes byte. Now this one can only store values between to the highest value of 127. So byte. So even it'll tell you the maximum value is 127. So what if I need a value bigger than 127? Well, you're lucky because there's something called a short, and that can store up to this number here. If that's not enough, well, there's an int. an integer. Now this one can store a lot, so honestly you don't really need to worry about that. But I'm gonna write int 1 equals, you can just write a big number, it doesn't matter. But, and then if that's also not enough, well, you can put a long, and that will just keep on going and going and going. So long is really big. And then you also don't need to worry about, where is there now? So yeah, again, that's also too big, so let's just keep that around there. So yeah, again, there's also all limitations within that, so there, you can put that. Okay. Okay, well, I need a decimal. Okay, well, let's try putting that here. Well, that's an error, is simply because it can only store whole numbers. So these four can only store whole numbers. Okay, so byte, short, integer, and long can only store whole numbers. Decimals go to something called a double and a float. So double 1 equals 4.5, for example. And you can also just store a regular value. So if I go double 2, I can still store 1 if I really wanted to. It's not going to be an issue, but when I print it, it's just going to put 1.0. Same thing with float. That can also store decimal places. So I can go 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 point, that's an I, 0.4, and it will store it. But it is a little bit too big, so we can change that again. So there we go. Okay. Now, the last thing I want to cover in this lesson is how to do mathematical operations, and I'm going to keep it simple for this video lesson here, in which I'm just going to do the basic operators, which is like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. So say for example I want to multiply byte 1 with short 1. So they're pretty big numbers. 127 times 32767. So big number. First thing is, I know for a fact I'm probably going to need an integer. Okay, if I want to be safe, I could do a double, but you're not going to lose much by just doing an integer. There's no point in wasting. There's no point in wasting storage. So I'm going to put sum equals byte 1 plus byte short 1. And given that these are already whole numbers, you don't really need to worry too much about converting the type. It will kind of already do it for you. But say for example I want to add like double 1. Well, that's an issue, is that it's going to give me a decimal value. So you have to do math.round. And that's really just the main one that I wanted to cover for. And yeah, this is also too big, so you have to go long. So that's really what I wanted to cover for this one here. Is just the math.round, is going from a decimal up to just a regular value, which you have the math.round. And then let's go, for example, multiplication. So let's go integer multiply equals, let's go int 1, and then to multiply you want to use shift 8 and then long 1. It might be too big as well, so you might have to switch that to a long as well. Yeah, okay. And then if you want to divide, for example, let's keep it long. Divide equals, let's go short 1 divided by, yeah, sure, let's do that, long 1. And last one is division is just a slash, and then if you want to subtract, that equals just the subtraction symbol there. And let's print all that now. Okay, so we want to print what we just got here. So back to the system.out.print. But there's a way that you can format it so it can be a little bit more interesting. So for example, say I want to say the sum of the values is, I can put plus and then sum, and that will put them together. And notice how I put a space here is because it won't automatically do that. So you have to put the extra space there in order for you to get a little space when you're putting the number. Otherwise it'll just be is colon and then the sum of that. And then same thing here, let's go system.out.print, multiplication of the values is, and then multiply. And then if you have, again, like I said, IntelliJ, it is great for that because it will just predict the whole thing for you. And once you begin that and run the code, you have your values here, and it's nicely formatted. And yeah, so that's really all I wanted to cover for the second episode. And so we just covered the different data types, which is the string, the character, byte, short, int, long, double, as well as float. In the next lesson, we're going to cover two more data types, which are used, one more data type, which is used for logic and is quite important to know. And yeah, thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.